Well, a real warm welcome to Siv. Thank you ever so much for coming in today. I'm going to let Siv explain to our listeners exactly what Siv does, who Siv is, and how he's got to where he's got to today. But there's some real quality gold dust stuff coming, guys. Siv, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, for the listeners, could you give us a background of you, your journey, and where you are right now?
So, my name's Siv. I'm at Charles Square. I'm New Business Director. I have been in new business development for 20 years, predominantly selling technology solutions, predominantly communication to hedge funds, family offices, private equity firms, and ultra high net worth individuals. So selling to the people that it's nigh on impossible to get in front of. Brief background on Charles Square. So Charles Square has been going for 7 years. It was set up by two guys, Craig and Gareth. Craig was global CTO of an $8 billion asset manager, and Gareth was global head of IT. They'd been there for 6 years. They'd basically transformed the technology within the asset manager. They'd got it to a point where they were babysitting. They were getting a bit bored. They went out into the marketplace to see what was out there, and they saw there was a gap in the market to offer a virtual CTO offering to the smaller sized hedge funds. So they started with their first two clients. First one was on Charles Street, second one on Berkeley Square, hence Charles Square. Luckily they didn't go with the other name idea, which was to combine their two names, which would have been Chareth, which would have been a lot harder to talk about. So fast forward 7 years, we have gone from 2 clients to 260 clients, of which probably 50 to 60 are on a retained basis with us, utilising multiples of our services, and then the other 200 are utilising us for project work and buying hardware on a regular basis, but on a transactionary basis as opposed to a retained basis. So what do? There's 4 sides to the square, if you like. So support, strategy, security, and supply. So support is 24/7, 365 IT support delivered by our team from our offices, delivered at a 5-star level. So the mindset level that we get all of our engineers trained to, and the thing we drill in the whole time to them, is to have the Mayfair Hotel mindset, not the Travel Lodge mindset. Okay. To think white glove, to go above and beyond. If you go into a client's office, you work for that client. You need to be delivering an internal model, but with an outsourced delivery. So if you're in a client's office, don't just rush in and fix an issue. Walk around the floor and find out if anyone else is having an issue and get that resolved as well, because they've probably been wanting to get it resolved, but they haven't been bothered to pick up the phone.
Sure.
So that heads something off. So that's IT support, 365, delivered globally, but from our London office. Security is the next thing, so cybersecurity audits and cybersecurity consultancy, delivered by our guys who are all ex-hedge fund people who work with companies to make sure their policies in place, that they've got the right technology in place, and help advise them what's best to breed for their budget. Strategy is virtual CTO as an offering. So most companies are too small to afford to have a full-time CTO.
Sure.
And unfortunately, the person who is most technical in the company ends up being in charge of it. Yeah. And I've had it before in previous companies, just because I knew how to use Excel better than everyone else. I've been put in charge of the entire technology of the company, which is all good and well, but then you're very reliant on your IT provider to tell you what to use. And most of the time you're being advised by an account manager who's commissioned, and hence going to push you the way that's going to make him the most money. I'm in sales. I know. All of our technology advice is given by technologists. So the guys that were former CTOs of hedge funds, we've got 4 of them in our company, they give the technology advice.
Okay.
They're advising, they're educating our clients, they're not making decisions, they're not dictating what technology the client should use. We give them recommendations based on our knowledge, but find what's best fit for the client.
Sure.
And the final piece is supply. So we can supply you anything from laptops, mice, keyboards, all the way through to multi-million pounds worth of server infrastructure. Now, I'm not going to talk to you today about technology because I'm the head of new business. So I turn up and do all the lunches and the drinks and the birthday parties and bar mitzvahs. Someone else talks about the technology. So I think we were just discussing...
Yes.
And the point, I guess, most companies out there that are delivering something of quality always have an issue with is that clients always compare you to something cheaper.
Yes.
So I can get this down the road at Sky Mobile or Kyphone Warehouse. And my mindset has always been that no one ever says, our service is shit, pardon my French, but we're cheap, come and buy from us.
Sure.
So as a company that does charge a little bit more, and I never want to be the cheapest in the market. At the same time, I don't want to be the most expensive. I just want to deliver good value for money. Unfortunately, Tesco's ruined the word value with their value range. But realistically, good value for money. So delivering quality, but at a reasonable price. As a company that does that, how do you get, A, the mindset into your staff to deliver that service? And B, how do you translate that to a client when it's not something that easy to understand? So one of the things in terms of translating that for service for our internal staff is anyone that joins Charles Square has to go through something we call Charles Square University. And it's a 2-week course that is all about understanding the way we deal with our clients and the service wrap we give to them. Half of the course is about that, and the other half is getting people up to scratch with the technologies. Sure. and so on. We've so as part of the first 4 or 5 days learning about the service side of things, and I had to go through this as well, was just getting your mind around the way you deal with clients. So firstly, we want to act as if we're the internal IT team, even though we're an outsourced model. And that is about understanding a client's culture and understanding how they work and their ethos, etc. And then the other side is understanding service ethics. So from the service ethics side of things, Craig, our MD, constantly says to people, have the Mayfair Hotel mindset, not the Travelodge mindset. There's nothing wrong with Travelodge. On occasion, I stay at Travelodge. Sure. But if you want a nice holiday, you're not going to Travelodge. You're going to the Mayfair Hotel or the Savoy, etc. So one of the things we're doing to get our staff to really understand the mindset is I happen to have some friends, one of whom happens to be the general manager of the Mayfair Hotel. So he's done us a 5-minute video around the 5-star mindset and what it takes to deliver 5-star service. We've got another friend of mine who happens to run a bespoke jeweler on Brook Street around the corner from where we're filming, and he's done a 5-minute video for us about the customer journey and really understanding your customer to deliver the right solution to them. The next person we're hoping to video in the next couple of weeks is Gordon Ramsay's executive chef for all of his fine dining, casual dining and Michelin star restaurants. And we're going to be speaking to him about the mindset and the quality difference between delivering casual dining, which is your average everyday restaurant on the high street, your Harvesters, your Bella Italias, etc., versus fine dining, versus 1 Michelin star, 2 Michelin star, 3 Michelin star. And the levels of mindset and attention to detail required to deliver service and to achieve those Michelin stars. And a lot of it is about consistency of service as well. The next person we've got is a friend of mine, used to be press secretary to the Queen for a decade. So she's going to talk about project management when they were taking the Queen on trips abroad. So she's going to talk about the Queen's trip to Ireland and the Queen's trip to Turkey. And project managing those trips and the thought process around it, including, you know, when the Queen was getting off the plane in Ireland, she was wearing a green dress. It seems like a small thing, but to the Irish people, I can imagine that made a huge impact. And you're probably looking at me and thinking, well, what's any of this got to do with IT? And actually, none of it has anything to do with IT, but it has everything to do with the way clients experience things. And what any company out there does out there is unique. Whether you're supplying IT or... I was actually sat around a lunch table with a private banker from Goldman Sachs, a bespoke jeweller, private jet broker, private yacht broker, a head of... what's the word I'm looking for? ESG, the sustainability at a charity startup tech fund, and we were all looking around discussing business development and realised that even though what we each individually do is different and the way we deliver it might be different to our competitors, what we're actually delivering as a product is not vastly different from what our competitors. So then you've got to look at, well, how am I delivering it differently to other people? And yes, then you can differentiate it, but then how do you communicate that across to other people in a way they understand? And we're learning lessons from... I was just watching the video from the GM of the Mayfair and the jeweller, and it was... I had to smile because the similarities between the two in a lot of ways was huge, even though one's selling you diamonds and the other one's giving you a hotel room and food. So I think at the highest end of service delivery, there's a lot of commonalities. It's about relationships. It's about understanding your customer. It's about remembering things about them. And to the other point, in terms of remembering things and understanding your customer, one thing we're going to start rolling out this year is we're going to get each of our clients to record a 5-minute video about them and their company and their culture and the way they do things. And we're going to send that out to all of our staff. So all of our staff really understand our customers in a way...
That's superb.
That if we're supposed to be delivering that internal feel, then we need to understand them in an internal way.
Sure.
And the best way to do that is almost get everyone onboarded in the same way that a client would onboard a new member of staff. So I think it's just about knowing that you're already taking the extra steps, but making sure people understand that and telling the story in the right way. And I guess one thing that I've learned, and I keep repeating it recently, I'm afraid there's going to be more expletives, but when you're telling your story about what you're doing and why you're doing it, keep asking yourselves 3 words. And you could probably do without the middle word, but I think it adds some power. So fucking what?
Sure.
And keep asking yourself that question until you get to an answer where you think, actually, yes, that is why I'm doing this. And make sure everyone in your company understands why you're doing it. From our standpoint, Craig and Gareth set up the company because when they were sat the other side of the desk, they never trusted an IT company with their outsourced services. They wanted to keep control of as much as possible in-house because they didn't trust anyone else with their baby.
No.
And therefore, it's weird for them being on the other side of the table, but they wanted to make sure they built a company that delivered that service at the right level. And that's why for the last 7 years, they haven't had anyone in business development. They've kept their head below the parapet. They've grown by word of mouth, and people have recommended them to other people. And it's generally chief operation officers and chief technology officers of hedge funds recommending them directly to other clients. If you asked any of our competitors before I joined in April, or even any of the other suppliers within the sectors that we work in, they'd either not heard of us or heard of us from specific clients because the client had told that supplier, we're using Charles Square.
Sure.
And in some ways it's worked to their detriment, in other ways it's worked to their benefit, but they haven't lost a client in 7 years. And that's realistically what we should all be aiming for.
Wow.
Especially at the higher end quality.
Can I ask you a question and drill down into something? You said you had a bit of a business lunch or a meeting or a dinner with some guys who were all around the table from pretty much high yielding service products, whatever they were. How has the pandemic helped or hindered that ability to sell, to create relationships with our intended focused target groups? Because we've questioned and interviewed and had many debates and sessions like this, and I know that our listeners out there are just at the moment on that sort of leveled step about going back into those types. Personally, I can't wait. And I've been looking for the day when the government say we're back to normal. How's that affected you and other people that you've come across? Because it seems like you've been very active.
So 2019, I went to 101 events.
In that year?
In that year.
Wow.
I probably turned down another 100 to 200 events just because I couldn't physically do more events in a day. September to December that year, I went to 45. Last year, between September and December, I went to 43 events. So, in some ways, I think we were almost back to normal.
Okay.
The tail end of last year. By the way, I think realistically, I mean, they're going to say we're back to normal, but it doesn't mean we're back to normal,
sure.
Right? I think this might be fake news, but I think I heard or read somewhere that it took the Spanish flu till 1956 to disappear into the normal flu cycle.
Okay.
So we've got to figure out a way to move forward with this. And one way I got around this was, so back in April, the rule of six still existed. Yes. I mean, it seems weird. It seems like it was years ago and yesterday at the same time. So going from 101 events to starting at a new company, because I started at Charles Square in April, and trying to get the word out there without all of those events was hard. So what I did was I got together a table of 6. The other driving force behind this, by the way, was I was booking days full of meetings in town, and I'd get to town, and then one by one, half of my meetings would drop out, and I'd end up with hours of gap in the middle. I don't know if you found the same thing.
I did.
So what I did was I arranged a table of 6 lunch. I got 6 people who would be useful to each other and useful to me together around a lunch table, and fun, and nice people, and look, I think people throw networking around as a word a lot. The problem is most networking events you turn up to, people are there with their business cards like ninjas looking to fling them about everywhere. And the problem is, I think when networking started, it started with a bunch of people who knew it was about relationships and building relationships, that were working for privately owned companies and that were about growing their company, delivering a service. They had a why, and their why wasn't to get an exit for their PE masters within the next 3 years, right? It was about delivering a quality of service to their end client, having a great lifestyle for themselves, and then at some point retiring and probably selling their company. I mean, we're all in business to make money.
Sure.
So by having those 6 people together, my first lunch was, I think, the 22nd of April.
Okay.
We turned up to the restaurant. Back then, all the restaurants had a limited amount of space outside. And especially in London, they were telling you, you've got 2 hours and we need the table back at 1 hour, 50 minutes, so we can turn it around for the next person. Luckily, I always make sure I build relationships, and it doesn't matter if it's with the people you're going to have food with at a restaurant or whether it's someone that you're going to do business with or with a friend, right? You try and help people out.
Yes.
So I said to the manager of Lucky Cat at the time, which is Gordon Ramsay's restaurant just up the road here, how long have we got the table for? And he said, it's normally an hour and a half. And I was like, I'm going to need a bit longer than that. So we turned up at 12. We left at 5:30 after he begged us for the 3rd time. We spent £900, so he wasn't out of pocket. He did well. And the only reason he's begging us was because he needed to get ready for dinner service.
Okay.
So we carried on drinking around the corner. There was an off license. We got a bag. It was warm still at that time, thankfully. But the reason we carried on, and it ended up being 7.5 hours.
Wow. And
we'd have probably carried on, but 2 people had to go on to another drinks thing.
Another drinks thing.
And the reason it worked was because we got nice people who all had the same kind of target client base, who were all willing to help each other, and who were willing to dedicate some time and energy to actually building relationships with people. So I did a count in December, and I ran 60 networking lunches and events between April and December. And some of those were 6 people round the table. The last one I did in December was 55 people, split into tables of 6. And they all worked with ultra high net worths and family offices. And they were in every aspect you can think of, from the bankers, the lawyers, the accountants, the FX guys, all the way through to the matchmakers, the concierges, the personal shoppers, the bespoke suit makers, the bespoke jewelers, and everything you can think of in between. And every time we've had one of those lunches, the minimum amount of time they've lasted is 5 hours. And the longest one was 9.5 hours in that same restaurant. I think a couple of people went off around the corner and carried on for a bit. And there was one occasion where I had to pour at least 3 ladies. Luckily, I don't drink, but I had to pour 3 ladies into cabs at the end. I feel a responsibility to look after everyone that's at the lunch. And sometimes people would look at it and think, well, what have all of these guys got in common? But I know of at least 3 ladies that have turned up to these lunches that other people have met, and when they told them we've only known each other 2-3 months, they were looking in shock and thinking, from talking to you guys, it's like you've known each other for years. It was like, we just met at one of Siv's lunches, and we've been to all these lunches, and then we've gone to events together. And I guess what we should all be aiming to do is remembering what business used to be like.
Yes.
In the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, before we were all driven by this mad kind of fever pitch of getting this gigantic exit and becoming billionaires. And just remember, business is about relationships and working with each other, helping each other. And I'm not saying be old-fashioned about it. We got a WhatsApp group with 83 people, and they're all asking each other, I've got a client that needs this, can anyone recommend? I've got a client that wants this. And actually, by being able to help your clients out with other things, with trusted suppliers that you know are going to deliver, your client's going to keep coming back and asking you. And one of those times, you're going to be able to say, actually, that's something I do. You just don't realise, because you bought this one thing off me, however long ago, and you've not realised that we've added this service, this service, this service. So,
Siv, I've got to come in here because you've just given me inspiration beyond inspiration. And certainly I know that a lot of our listeners today would love to connect. How do they get hold of you? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay. How do they get you?
I'm trying to think what my LinkedIn is. If they search Siv.Sivasamy, they should find me, or
Fantastic.
the longer form, sivaddison.sivasamy, or siv@csq.global.com.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. And I know, because I'm already wanting to have a conversation with you outside of this particular podcast today, that there will be people out there that have listened to what you've just said and have taken so much inspiration. I know I mentioned it earlier, but it's such a breath of fresh air what you're saying, especially after the 2 years that we've had. But it sounds like actually what you've trying to be doing is to be pushing on. So I don't think I need to ask you what 2022 looks like, because it's just more the same, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've already got... Actually, I've got a 75-person drinks event tomorrow night, being hosted by Gordon Ramsay Restaurants.
Of course you have.
We've got 55 at least for lunch next Wednesday. We'll split everyone into tables of 6. As people come in, I always ask them, what do you do?
Okay.
And then I will place them at a table.
Okay.
Preferably with people they don't already know, because there's no point being with people you already know. Although if you walk into a room and you don't already know 20 to 30% of the people in the room, you're probably in the wrong room, or you don't get out enough.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, we've already started along those lines. We've already signed up a few clients already for Charles Square. We're talking to people, but also we all remember and realise, and luckily I've got the right 3 owners of the company that kind of understand and support me in this. I'm not going anywhere for the next 10 years. That's my mindset. So whether I pick your business up today or in 10 years' time, I don't need 100 clients a year.
Sure.
And I think most small business people forget that, and they think, I need to keep bringing on clients. You don't. If you bring on 5, 10 clients, you've probably grown by 10, 20%. If you're growing more than 10 or 20%, you're going to affect the service you're delivering to your clients.
It's risky, right?
You're always better off keeping the clients you've got than bringing new clients on.
Absolutely.
If you lose 0 clients and you bring 1 client on, you've got growth.
Yeah, fantastic.
If you lose half your clients because you've gone chasing after a client over there, you're in trouble. And I think people forget that. They get frustrated with it when their insurance company gives them a highball number, and then they compare the supermarket and get a lowball number from the same insurance company.
That's so basic, isn't it?
But look after your customers. So build relationships, build a community around you with other people that deliver great service to the same kind of clients. Figure out the 100 people you want to do business with in the next 10 years and take them out for lunch, take them out to events, get them to know your existing clients. You don't need to sell. If you're selling to clients at a high enough level, you can't really sell to them. No one likes to be sold to. I walked into PC World a few months ago, and I actually went into PC World because I wanted advice on something. But the guy walked up to me and said, "Can I help you?" And I immediately said, "No thanks, I'm just looking." And then I stopped and I looked up exactly like this, and I thought, hold on a minute, come back. I actually came here to get some advice, but I was in autopilot mode and went, no thank you, because I don't want to be sold to, but come and help me. So brilliant. I think if you realise your clients are at that level, then don't sell to them. Have a chat to them, give them information, give them knowledge, build a relationship with them, get them to speak to your other clients, take them out for drinks, take them out to events, get involved with stuff that you're passionate about, find other clients that share that passion. And it doesn't need to be rugby or football, or it could be food, it could be restaurants, it could be wine, whatever it is. Find your passion and find other people that are potential clients that are into that. I also, by the way, have a better conversion ratio, I found, than my peers, because actually a lot of the time I get introduced to a company after I've made introductions to the CEO or a partner of a law firm, and I've handed them business and they want to pay me back. So they introduce me to their CTO or head of technology. And when I meet that person, then I can say, yeah, I know him, I've passed him business the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. No other supplier is going to be able to say that. So you're one step above the competition straight away. And that's from having the mindset of what can I do for other people over what's in it for me. If everyone's thinking what's in it for me, no one's winning.
Yeah, of course.
If everyone comes in it with what can I do for every person that I meet, you might not get back from that person, but they might say something to someone over there, and they'll say something to someone over there, and they'll come over to you. And it might not be this year, it might not be next year, it might be 5 years, but...
You're in it for the long game, yeah?
I mean, I'm 40, I've still got 20 years at least. There's nowhere I'm going. Build yourself a reputation and people will come to you. They'll come to you for help, they'll come to you for advice, and sometimes they'll come to you for something that you can deliver through the business that or that you can pass to a friend, even better.
Siv, that was a masterclass. And wow, thank you from me personally, but also our listeners. And I can't wait to get you back. I can't wait to come to one of your events if I get invited. And thank you so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Siv. Thank you.